Hey everyone, welcome back to Like a Boss. And like I said, every week we have guests that are maybe even more interesting than they were the week before. Everyone has such wonderful perspectives, bringing all kinds of different experiences, knowledge, insights to the table here. Today we've got Luz Gonzalez. She was the founder of Clarity with Luz, but as an emotional awareness consultant, she saw an opportunity to expand her business even further. Now she's the founder of a company called EQrefined. Hello, Luz. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Loralyn. Thanks for having me.
Tell us a little bit about the stage that EQrefined is at, and if you're looking for funding, partnerships, customers, give us some scoop.
Okay, so as you stated earlier, I started with Clarity with Luz, and I was consulting with individual people. From that space, I learned that there was a gap missing in developing emotional intelligence in corporations. There's a lot of situations where people are having conflicts and they're not able to collaborate. So the creativity isn't flowing. So I saw a gap, I saw an opportunity, and I created EQrefined. From the EQrefined, it's a startup business. I registered it in March. I've already had, in my opinion, some success. So I'm someone who's very much collaborating. I have a specific set of gifts. Other people have other gifts. And I think when we work together, magic happens.
Now, emotional intelligence is something we're hearing a lot about, right? Of all of the soft skills, it's, EQ as important as IQ. Can you give us maybe a little bit more perspective on the impact and the importance of EQ and why people care now, where it seems like it's always something that people should have been aware of?
I know, right? That's the interesting thing. So emotional intelligence, IQ is different from EQ. In other words, an IQ is about, being smart, developing your cognitive skills, understanding how to problem solve. But EQ is about distinguishing between internal triggers and the triggers of others. EQ is about learning to identify what my emotions are, what my thoughts are, and how that affects my actions, and vice versa, how that affects other people's actions. So when I develop my emotional quotient, I am able to communicate something that might be a misunderstanding. I'm able to move beyond an obstacle. I'm able to see a thought that might be coming from a belief system that I didn't even know was there. I'm able to pause. That's the biggest part. Pause, become aware, and then move forward with a different set of skills or knowledge.
Now, given the level of self awareness that you have and the experience that you have in emotional intelligence, I'm really interested to get your answer to this question. What's the hardest thing you've ever had to do?
That's so good a question. Um, there's a few things. I don't think one really marks the spot, but one of the hardest things I've ever had to do was leave a bad relationship. I was in a relationship, 13 years, 3 children, and I had developed a belief that I had to stay for this reason or for that reason. And I realized ultimately I was staying because of fear of the unknown, fear of uncertainty. And when the line was crossed that, okay, I can't stay in this relationship anymore, I then had to step out into the unknown and then face my own thoughts of my challenges and my obstacles. Take a breath and restart with every breath. Okay, you're okay. You have your health, you have your children, you're fine. Change my capacity of thinking about my external environment. And that's how I was able to gain strength among other hard situations. One of my youngest daughter had brain cancer. And some people might say, oh, how could you say leaving a relationship was harder than my youngest daughter having brain cancer? You can't compare pain. Everything is unique and challenging in its own moment. They're all difficult moments. The gift is being able to open up to grace within yourself, to allow yourself to be guided by a force more than you.
And Luz, that's incredible vulnerability there, and very, very much appreciated that you felt that this was a safe place where you could share that. And our audience, I'm sure, is all curious. How is your daughter doing now?
Oh, I'm happy to say that, when the doctors told me it was a very rare an aggressive cancer, and they looked at me like I wasn't comprehending the gravity of the situation, that today she's happy, healthy, 14, turning 14. She was 4 at the moment, and it was a few years of treatment and surgeries, etc. And she has side effects, of course, from the radiation, from what will happen. But luckily, because I've been able to develop my EQ, I can support my children in the same thing. And people who do have higher EQs are able to thrive and manage themselves in any environment. So we all have our handicaps, but we also have our strengths and our skills. So she's doing good. Thank you for asking.
And we're going to, of course, be equally curious. How are you doing now, after going through all of that?
It's funny you ask, because my sister, I have an identical twin sister, and where I help people develop their EQ, she helps people develop their financial literacy. And my twin sister has been with me through everything. After my daughter was okay already to go back to school and manage herself, I ended up going back to school to get my bachelor's degree. And I've never been so stressed out in my life, where I'd be crying. And this is where EQ really had to step in, so I wouldn't believe the stories in my mind. And my sister laughs at me because she's like, you're the only one I know that overcame. So not only did my daughter have cancer, but my son was part of an explosion where 50% of his body burned when he was 2 years old. So that was a whole nother trauma. And she laughs at me because, I was able to survive and conquer those things, but school was hard. And so, everything, like I just said, you have to bring your own interpretation, your own awareness, your own skills, take a deep breath, gather yourself, have a vision. What is it that you want to create? What is it that you want to do? And with those skills and knowledge is how I've been moving myself forward in my life.
What drew you to the field of emotional intelligence to develop the skills and knowledge and constructs to become an expert in the field?
I love this question because most of my life, it was about, okay, that's success over there. Take a look and copy, mimic. Go to school, learn this, learn that, and you can then maybe earn a 5-figure salary. But it was never about developing who I was as an individual. And I had these internal skills. My parents spoke Spanish. I was a translator. I moved to the Philippines. I learned Tagalog. Lived in South America as well, traveled, etc. I didn't know that I was a translator of sorts. But what I was a translator of was I could really connect to body language. I had a very strong intuition, but intuition wasn't spoken about really 25 years ago. So I always felt like I had to morph myself into something else. And then the situations followed were the breakup of my relationship. My son got, burned. My daughter had cancer. All of these things helped me realize I have innate skills that are unique to me, and I didn't have to mimic or change myself to fit a mold. And I think that was one of the biggest lessons that I learned. And then because of school, it really was something that was positive for me in the long run, because it helped me see that there's a lack of what I do out there. And if I develop myself, then I fill a niche.
All right. Well, I'm going to inject just a bit of levity in because this is really heavy and so insightful, and I think incredibly helpful to our audience. Now, you said you had a twin, and I've had the chance to sort of meet your twin. Have you guys ever switched it up and just trying to mess with people?
That's so funny. We were in high school and we had a science teacher, and the science teacher was one of those joker kind of guys. And I had him for a class, she had him for a class, and he kept begging us to switch it up on him. And we're such good girls, we followed directions. Our parents really raised us to be respectful, humble. And one day we said, okay, he's asking for it, let's do it. I sat in on my science teacher's class twice. And the funniest part is he didn't even get it, but the students around us, they realized what was happening and they were having a blast. When the teacher finally found out after calling me Vivian a few times, he was like, do it again. Let me see if I get it next time. So that was, I think, the one and only time when we purposefully did it. Other times we'd be walking and like her husband would think I'm her. The children sometimes would think I'm her, or she be me, but that's up to the most that we've done.
That's always funny. My little sister and I, people think we're twins. So, we've messed with people a few times. It's kind of fun. All right. Getting serious again, Luz. Now, say I gave you a magic wand and said you get to change one thing from your past. What would be different?
I wish what really helped me, and it goes to something that people ask me, is what should they read? I've always been an avid watcher of Oprah. She is one of my heroines. And one of her most frequent guests is Gary Zukav, Zukav. I ran into one of his newsletters a few years back, and I realized that they had workshops, and I signed up for his workshop, and this really opened up my life. He's the one who started me on emotional awareness versus emotional intelligence. Emotional awareness meant that my body was giving me data, information that I was not really listening to. We've all had that sudden butterflies in our stomach, or a frog in our throat, or, an elephant sitting on our chest. But we didn't know what to do with it. He gave me the insight and information on what that means and what that's offering me. So I wish I would have known this sooner, and I could have made decisions from a different place.
Wow. Now that's already a lot of tips and insights in there, but I'm going to ask for one more, Luz. Can you share your best tip for the next generation of women?
Oh, yeah. My best tip. My best tip would be challenge that inner dialogue within you that wants you to, in any way, disconnect from a situation. And I say this always: take a breath. You know how your phone sometimes doesn't work, or your computer sometimes gets frozen? That's how we get sometimes when we can get caught up in a situation. So when you take a breath, it's like a reboot, a restart. Take a breath, and this is your moment to start all over. Assess the situation from different set of perspective or eyes, and gain a different outlook. Move beyond the ego self, parts of you that are seeing this from a different lens. Take a breath and ask yourself, okay, what do I do right now to communicate a message, or to listen, or to really connect to abundance?
I'm like relaxed after that, just like take a breath. I'm like, okay, because it's already been an insane day and we're only at not even quite 10 a.m., but it's already been an 8-hour day. So that was enormously helpful to me. I hope that was helpful to the audience. Now, towards the goal of reciprocity, Luz, how can our audience help you?
Oh, that's lovely. Look me up on Instagram. I am under E like Edward, Q like Queen, or should I say Edwina? EQ Refined, website called EQrefined.com.
Perfect. Okay, last question, Luz. So a little fun now because we've had a serious conversation with some incredible stories of the things that you've had to go through and endure and find inner strength, and then find ways to be able to tap into that inner strength and offer it to others. So let's wrap up with something a little fun. And I've seen you numerous times. You always have a lovely sense of style. So I'm going to be very curious how you answer this question. If your shoe style was your personality, are you a boots, stilettos, sneakers, flats, or flip flops kind of gal?
um, if you ask my husband, he's going to tell you something totally different. I would say Nike Air, a Nike Air shoe, because if you had this shoe in the past, people thought you were crazy. You looked weird. But if you have it now, you're stylish, number one. Two, you're comfortable. Three, you're unique. You're floating on air. And lastly, it's good for your back. You're supported.
Wow, I never pegged you as a Nike Airs girl. Who knew?
Oh, I love flip-flops. I love sneakers. If I have to, those are my go-to shoes. It's just about comfort, but also there's beauty, right?
Absolutely. All right, Luz. Well, thank you so very much for stopping by our show today. And we wish you tremendous success with EQ Refined. As we all know, people really need to tap into greater depths of emotional awareness and intelligence. And it's fantastic that you're the one guiding the way.
Thank you so much for having me, Loralyn. And I'm excited to say, join me at EQ Refined on Instagram. And I would love to answer any of your questions if you guys have, and we can dive deeper.
Thanks, Luz.
Thank you, Loralyn.
And how about that fantastic intro by Touch Circle?